Deal here. Merry Christmas, everyone. As you board the tram, just move all the way down to the right-hand side of the row, leaving the empty spaces on your left. Try to get a few more folks aboard while we can. Good to have you all here. My name is Tim, and I'm going to be your guide this evening. I do want to let you know that I'm not going to be on camera because the camera at nighttime doesn't work very well. I'll prove it to you. It's so bright. So I'm not going to be on camera, plus I don't want it to turn into like the Blair Witch Project over here. But I'm going to be talking to you the entire time, so just keep that in mind. It's nice to meet you all. If you end up on the left-hand side of the road, just be careful, the gates will be closing here momentarily. Watch your fingers and toes as those come on down. I also need to make sure that you all have a pair of 3D glasses. You're going to need those for King Kong 360 3D today. If you do not have a pair of 3D glasses, just raise your hand way up high in the air so we can see you, and we'll grab you some before we leave today. There you go. Doozy, you made it happen. Look at us. I'm talking to our driver, Doozy. Everyone say hi, Doozy. Hi, Doozy. Without Doozy, we'd never leave here because it's 400-acre movie studio, and I don't want to watch that. It's good to have you all here. Any small children whose feet can't touch the floor must be placed towards the center seats by at least one person. Have your cameras ready. Just hold on tight. Keep your arms like chest or knees straight. Use your toes inside the vehicle at all times. And also for your safety, I'm not driving Doozy it, so you don't have to worry about that. It also helps that I'm, sitting backwards and you sit in the right way. I am on the vehicle, by the way. I'm all the way up here in the front. See that goofy looking highway, didn't you? Hi. How's it going? Who's doing this for the first time ever? Any first timers? Hey, first timers back row. Back row, where are you guys from? Colorado. Welcome out west. Welcome. Who's been here before, but it's been a super long time? Welcome back. How long has it been?
A few months.
2 months? That's a fair amount of time. That being said, who does this all the time? Right here in the front. Yeah, we got a lot of regulators. Well, whether it's been 10 years, 2 months, yesterday, or an hour and a half like me, welcome on board, everyone. My name is Tim. I'll be your guide with us today as a driver. Doozy, and here's the co-host of this tour, host of the Tonight Show, starring Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon.
Welcome to the Universal Studio Tour. I'm Jimmy Fallon. I'll be making sure that you get through this experience in one piece. You got the very best guide.
Tim.
And the greatest driver.
Doozy.
They're the best. I love her. Even though
Tim
owes me $5.
Bruh.
I know you guys are excited to get on the tour, but first, a few safety rules.
Yeah, that's right, Jimmy. We do have a few safety rules. First and foremost, if you're in need of assistance of any kind, could be a medical emergency, drop something of value up inside the vehicle, if you're having video or audio issues on the tram, just can't wait to use the restroom, anything you need help with, you let me know. I'll reach up and grab the red cord, runs on the center of the ceiling of the car. That is the emergency cord. If you pull on that, we will stop and I'll be back to help you as soon as it is safe for me to do so. Otherwise, for the remainder of the tour, just remain seated, keep your arms legs inside the vehicle at all times. Now, you do want to have your cameras ready, but hold on tight to those cameras and all belongings. There will be sudden train movements, loud sounds, fire effects, and water effects of the tour. There are certain locations of the studio as well where I can't get out of the vehicle. So if you drop something there, it's going to take a while to get that item back to you if you ever see that thing back again. There's absolutely no smoking whatsoever on the tram. And for your safety and the safety of those around you, please do not use selfie sticks while let's get this tour started. Hey, have you guys noticed we're building a roller coaster? That's pretty cool. This Fast & Furious Hollywood Drift that will be opening up next year. Doozy, have you seen them testing the ride during the day? I have yet to see it during the day. I've only seen videos of it. They've been putting the ride through. They're doing the drifting of the cars on it. And that'll be opening up next year. I'm very excited for it. But that attraction wouldn't exist without this one. This studio tour has been running for over 61 years, and we are the original attraction for Universal Studios. And the studio tour wouldn't exist, obviously, without the studio, which is 110 years old. And the studio itself wouldn't exist without one man, our founder, Carl Lemley. Uncle Carl, the gentleman there in the motel. He also founded the city in which we're in. We are Universal City. This is a real fire station to the right-hand side. Any firefighters outside? I love you. All right, bye. We also have a share station, medical facilities, and daycare facilities. There's a gym here I don't go to. We got 3 Starbucks in this town, a giant theme park, got a whole bunch of stuff. But your town's got something we don't. I know that for a fact. You might live in a really big town, really small town. You might live across the ocean. You might live in Colorado, right? I know some of you folks do. But your town at least has residents. Yeah, no one lives here. Rather than having residents, though, there are thousands and thousands of movie and television professionals who work here almost every single day. Most of those people work specifically here in the front lot. The front lot's where the headquarters for Universal Pictures is. It's also where the majority of our sound stages are. Now, the soundstage to your left-hand side is the oldest and largest on the property. It's about 100 years old and 1.4 million cubic feet. It is currently being used by a very large, top secret movie I can't tell you about, along with about 10 other stages. Yes, it is a very large production. They're actually using more sound stages than any other production since I've been a tour guide. That's over 10 and a half years now. The only other production I know that has used more is actually How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey. They actually used half of our total sound stages. Most of it was just for makeup because all the Who's need to get their own nose for the movie. They are also utilizing all the sound stages here to the left. You're noticing that most of them are open, most of them are empty. They'll kind of come and go as they're going through the production. And please keep in mind, this is not just for us. We will use these obviously for our own movies and television shows, especially for Peacock or streaming service. But we'll rent these out to anybody. Disney, Warner Brothers, Sony, Paramount, you all want to make a movie here, just have a really expensive Grinchmas party, I don't care what you do. In fact, Warner Brothers is doing a show here called Stour Fails to Save the Universe on HBO Max. We also produce an HBO Max show here, called Hacks with Gene Smart. And we also do a couple of our own streaming service shows for Peacock. We got Ted films in these sound stages, Bel Air uses these. And another one just came out this year called The Paper, starring these two folks, Oscar Nunez and Chelsea Fry.
Hi, Studio Tour.
We're here on the lot where we film The Paper, which follows our characters' day-to-day lives as employees of the struggling newspaper. Believe it or truth telling.
Right. Unlike many other TV shows, The Paper uses multiple cameras and a variety of shot types and movements to give our show a true documentary feel.
Because the camera is always around whenever we're on the set. It's important that we stay in character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Oscar, what's your favorite part of working on the role?
I wasn't expecting you to ask me that. You know what? I love being around talented, wonderful, hilarious people. I also get to work with Chelsea Fry. How about you, Chelsea? What's your favorite?
Oh, I love waving to the trams.
Oh. Okay. You could probably stop waving now.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's fine. It's good.
If you're a fan of The Office, definitely check out The Paper. Oscar Nunez, by the way, is playing the same character that he played in The Office. It's a straight continuation from that. You can watch it all on Peacock. You can also watch it weekly now on NBC. They're releasing it there. They actually filmed the show inside the soundstage we're passing by here to the right-hand side. Although a few years back, there was another really big movie that was being made inside here. We were told, do not talk about it under trams. And we're like, great, what is it? They didn't even tell us. It wasn't until the movie came out that we found out that Oppenheimer was filming inside these sound stages. There's a specific scene in Oppenheimer that used these. Oppenheimer, played by Cillian Murphy, goes to the White House to talk to the president near the end of the film, the president being played by Gary Oldman. Christopher Nolan could probably get access to the real White House and film it there, but they actually built the White House inside of these sound stages to the right-hand side, right? It's a lot easier. You can build something that looks so real we can't tell the difference. You have control over the environment, especially in the sound stage where you control not only what the sound or what the set looks like, but what it sounds like, the temperature, the lighting, every aspect of it. But before you build or film anything, you have to do a lot of planning and preparation, which is part of what we call pre-production, which also happens here, just typically inside of office spaces, like what you see up here on the left-hand side behind our buddy Ted. Now, Ted is standing in front of some pretty interesting buildings. These are office spaces for some of the top writers, directors, and production companies in the business, including Mark Platt Productions, who had a pretty big movie come out this weekend.
Goodbye, guys. Say bye now. Just that one note the whole time.
Turn off the flash.
What a touching display.
Shiz.
I scare you?
I'm a public figure now. People expect me to fly. Be encouraging. Are you crazy? We couldn't be happier. Please, where'd you get that?
Yeah, Wicked for Good now in theaters, including our own Universal Cinema up on City Walk. If you haven't seen a movie up there, highly encourage you to do so. Also, if you haven't got your tickets yet for Wicked for Good, at the very end of the tour, you're going to see a Wicked for Good poster with a QR code on it that you can scan for a ticket deal from Fandango, so you can get some tickets from that. Now, Mark Platt is not the only person to have an office out here. There's companies like Illumination. They're out here. They brought us Despicable Me, Minions, Sequel Like Bed, Sing, Super Mario Brothers movie. The sequel they just announced, Super Mario Galaxy, the movie, which is one of my favorite games of all time. I'm so excited for it. I'm not allowed to talk about like casting and stuff like that, but Brie Larson is in it. I'm so excited. Also, Justin Spitzer has an office out here. He creates a lot of television for us. He did Superstore with American Firm, been filming for a number of years. He also has another show on NBC currently in its second season with David Allen Greer and Wendy McCutcheon-Covey called St. Dennis Medical.
Welcome to St. Dennis Medical Center.
St. Dennis Regional Medical.
I have access to some really good stuff, and I will hook you up.
Yeah.
No, man. That was a test.
Like the Avengers, you know?
We're not supposed to have fever patients, but we do.
I almost don't want them to get better. Pale, kind of blotchy.
It's the other one.
Oh my God, that's much worse.
So you can see the first season of this hilarious show on Peacock. You can also see the second season now on NBC. I want to say it's in its 4th episode of season 2, and all of that filmed inside the soundstage we're next to. They just finished the last episode filming-wise about 2 weeks ago, so they're still in the process of striking their set. Strike is what we call the process of taking down what you have built. All the sets that are inside of soundstages are temporary. They're just built for the one filming location and the one time you're going to use it, and then you take it down, you store it away if it's a television show, or you just take it apart entirely if it's a movie, right? But here in the Backlot, that's almost the exact opposite, right? We have much more permanent structures that we have here in the Backlot, but you, as a filmmaker, can change them to be what you need. In fact, St. Dennis Medical has a semi-permanent set here in these metropolitan sets in front of us. They're outside of their hospital. The entry and the ambulance bay is actually built into these city streets. Now, we can film all over the world, and we often do, but it's a lot easier to film here at the Universal Backlot and pretend you're going around the world than it is to actually go there, especially if it's a city street like we have up here on the left. I do want to let you know we're unable to drive through the metropolitan sets because there are 3 separate productions currently set up in here. I can tell you about one of them. Hacks is actually going to be filming on here a little bit later on this week, so they're utilizing some of our streets. We're not going to drive down the middle of it. The 2 other things are quite large. The same movie that's filmed in the front lawn and another television show that I also can't tell you about are currently set up out here. But that's the kind of stuff that happens here at Universal all the time, right? Because you can do things in these city streets that we can't do in your home. For instance, nobody lives or works in these buildings. Most of these don't even have interiors. So we can block off the roads for months and not kick people out of their homes and offices. We can cover the roads in dirt like we had the past few weeks and change the time period to when they had horse-drawn carriages and gas lamps and everything that was involved with that. Not only that, you can destroy these things, right? Well, we don't want to go and blow up your home or office, but we can do that out here. Michael Bay likes to blow stuff up, so he did that out here for Transformers. He'll like to race cars for Fast and Furious, so we did that for Fate and Furious and Hobbs and Shaw out here. Some of your favorite actors and directors have walked here in the Backlot making their favorite movies, but my personal favorite filmmaker, Peter Jackson, didn't just make movies here. He made some attractions we get to visit, including the next one we're going to, King Kong 360 3D.
It's the original King Kong that made me want to direct movies. I saw that movie on TV when I was about 8 or 9 years old. I like films that take you away from your real life and sweep you up to the edge. Kong literally does that. I mean, you're on board the ship, you're sailing to a lost island, you're encountering monsters and creatures from, prehistoric times. So I was thrilled when Universal invited me back to Skull Island. It's great to have you along for the ride. Now, we have created this 3D immersive experience, so you're going to have your glasses ready. Don't put them on yet, but just have them in your hand because we're about to return to Skull Island.
We are in for an adventure, y'all. Please remain seated, arms, legs to the vehicle. Hold on tight to your belongings. This is one of the locations I can't get out in. And feel free to take picture and video throughout the tour. I do want to ask that you turn off the flash. At no point in the tour today is the flash going to help your photos. In fact, it's going to ruin your photos because it's going to focus on the person next to you, who you're also blinding. We don't want to do that either. We're going to take this Dark Kingdom tunnel directly to the home of King Kong here in just a moment.
We really put a lot of thought into the character and personality of Kong. He's so much more than a monster. In fact, he's not a monster. He is an incredibly majestic, ancient creature. He's the force of nature. He's old, he's wise, he's proud, he's fierce, and obviously he has a heart. The most important feature with Kong are his eyes. Kong's eyes are wonderfully expressive. They're full of emotion. His eyes are his personality. He's had an enormous number of encounters with his foes, the T-Rexes, and various dinosaurs on Skull Island. So he's been beaten up, scarred, chewed up, spat out by these dinosaurs at various times. He wears the scars of a lot of things.
All right, everyone. Once again, please remain seated, arms and legs to the vehicle, and hold on to your loved ones, like your cell phones and stuff, because I can't get out here. Welcome to Skull Island. of the largest and most intense 3D experiences on the planet. Is that cool or is that cool? That's pretty cool. All right, y'all. We are now done using the 3D glasses for the rest of the tour. So you're not going to need to wear them, but I want you to hold on to them because we try to recycle all of it once we're done. That epic battle was produced by director Peter Jackson, and it was created by a company in New Zealand you found called Weta Digital, which is now known as Weta Effects. You've seen so many movies that Weta Effects has worked on because they're at the forefront of CGI computer-generated imagery for some of our favorite movies. They've won 7 Academy Awards for their visual effects over the years on King Kong, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Disney's Jungle Book, and James Cameron's Avatar and Avatar The Way of Water. Literally every single big box office success in the last 25 years has been in part worked by Weta Digital, so they've done amazing work. But what they typically do is solely with the computer, and sometimes they'll take things that we film out here in these metropolitan sets and change it with the computer, usually by the use of the green screen. Bright green and bright blue are two colors that don't naturally appear in anyone's skin tone, so a computer can select that and delete it or replace it and not replace somebody's face. That's how these roads made are a little bit longer, the buildings a little bit taller, or change their shape or look. But like I said, you don't need to use computers. You can physically change these if you want, especially because all the brick and stone here in the Backlot is made of plastic and fiberglass. So you just peel it off, put up something else up. So these city streets are constantly changing their appearance day in and day out. And like I said, there's 3 different things currently inside this one set. And that's kind of our founder's dream. Carl Laemmle wanted Universal Studios to become a one-stop shop for filmmaking. No matter what kind of movie you're making, no matter when it takes place or where it takes place, he wanted you to find that location here. And over the 110 years, that's what we have done. Now, could he have guessed the type of things that we're doing? Probably not, because back then it was mostly just silent westerns. But today we have these big action blockbusters and race cars, things that he never could have even imagined. Also, things like competition series on TV. 1, TV wasn't a thing. And 2, I don't think he imagined a giant obstacle course for American Indoor going down his movie sets like we have here almost every single year. There's another competition series that is also busy today. You see all these cars who are left-hand side. This is actually the crew of The Voice building the sets for the live rounds.
Hey there, Studio Tour. I'm Snoop Dogg from The Voice. We tape our show right here in stage 30 and 31 in the heart of the Universal Backlot. These state-of-the-art soundstages allow us to bring every round of our show to life, from the blind auditions to the live finale, and everything in between. Make some noise! We know where America wants it. Reba sucks, baby! Yo, you should see the underwear I'm wearing.
Yeah, we are busy working on the live rounds of The Voice. So everything that you've seen so far has been pre-recorded, maybe a few weeks or a month or two in advance. And then once they move into live rounds, the contestants have been practicing with their coaches, so they're not going completely unprepared in front of millions of people live on TV. Not only that, Reba McEntire does another show right next to it. In fact, I see their light on right now. They're filming season 2 of Happy's Place.
Hey there, I'm Reba McEntire, and welcome to Happy's Place. We shoot our heartfelt comedy right here on Universal Live. Now, unlike most TV shows, we are a multi-camera sitcom, meaning several cameras capture every scene from a different angle, all at the same time. Each episode takes about a week to make, from the first read-through of the script to rehearsals to taping in front of a live studio audience. And let me tell you, every step is a blast. Enjoy the ride, and we'll see you at Happy's Place. I'm starting to sweat. The men are the ones supposed to ask the women out. That hasn't been true for 30 years. I haven't dated in 30 years.
Happy's Place, Friday on NBC and Peacock. Yeah, Reba McEntire is such a one successful and 2 talented human being. She's a country artist. She's an actress. One of my favorite movies that she has ever done. Doozy, you might know this. That is a Universal movie, came out in the late 80s or early 90s. I don't know the precise date. Tremors. Do y'all know Tremors with Kevin Bacon? It is the graboids, those underground worm monsters that go through. It's like a horror mixed with a Western, and it is so good. Reba McEntire plays one of the main characters' wives. It is so good. One of my personal favorites. And what a place to have that. We have our old Western sets here to the right. The horror movie got its start here in the 30s. And the Westerns and horror movies is how we kept our studio open from the early days going through the Great Depression. So we owe a lot to that genre. In fact, this era where we're at specifically is also where the idea of a studio tour began. Because way back in the early days of the film industry, studios were closed to the public. They were very, very strict about who was allowed in and who was not. Well, our founder, Carl Lemley, didn't want the public to be forbidden from his studio. He opened it up, and for 25 cents, people could buy a ticket to Universal, sit in bleachers all around where we're at right now, and watch their favorite Western stars go to work. Now, unfortunately, when sound was added, that all changed, but we brought that audience back in 1961 with the addition of our studio tour. Now, the studio tour has obviously changed a considerable amount. The first tours only went out with like 60 people. There was 2 guides, 1 driver, and a single ticket seller. But we've added more and more throughout the years. Some of you might remember one of my personal favorites that I got to do, the parting of the Red Sea, which is where we would go through the water and the water would drop down. We used to have what is called the Mummy Tunnel. You would drive into a spinning tunnel and everyone would get horribly dizzy. But one of my all-time favorite attractions is not only still here, I think you're going to recognize it. And we're pulling it there now. Welcome to Amity Island. Now, Amity has been closed for a few days, not just because of the rain, but because of a shark that found its way into the lagoon here. But they caught the shark, and I can't imagine they want to keep the beach closed for too long. So we're going to pull in, we're going to see what's going on. I know the guy in charge is my buddy George. George's a police officer. Wait, what's that? Is that a shark? Dude, there's a shark in there. All right, so everyone stay in the tram. Where's George? Oh, he's in the water. George. George. Oh. You okay? Oh. No, he's fine. He's dead. He's real dead. All right, everyone. Change of plans. We're gonna park over here next to the. Wait, what do the barrels say? Does it say gasoline? All right. It just took the gasoline off the list. Hey, don't touch the gasoline spraying all those lakes back there. Don't touch that. Oh! All right. Wow. Don't panic. Don't panic. Just stay seated. I think we're gonna call the fire department. They're gonna make their way up. Oh, okay. We gotta leave right now. You're gonna need a bigger tram. Congratulations, everyone! You survived Bruce the shark. Good old Bruce. Good old Bruce. Hey, I'm gonna hang out the window. Don't tell my boss. Hi, it's me, the guy that's been talking at you. I'm waving at you from the front car. Hey, I got a quick question for everyone. If you know the answer, yell it at me. What kind of shark is that? What is that?
Great white.
No, it's plastic. It's a plastic shark. No, you're right. Plastic gray white. Now, Jaws came out just over 50 years ago, June 20, 1975, and our attraction was added less than a year later because of Steven Spielberg himself. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. Now, the movie was originally supposed to come out Christmas Day in 1974, 6 months prior, but they were still working on the movie because the shark wasn't working. The shark was put into the Atlantic Ocean on the first day of filming and it sank. It was supposed to be a 60-day shoot turned into over 100 days. Now, you might be thinking, all right, yeah, they postponed it to summer as a perfect summer movie. Well, that was actually risky for a studio back then. We did not release big movies in the summer. Jaws is the first one, and it kind of started a trend. It became the biggest box office success at the time. It lost to Star Wars a few years later, but we won't talk about it. Steven Spielberg gained that title back with E.T., also released in June, and then gained it back again with Jurassic Park, also released in June. Now, Jurassic Park is by far my favorite movie of all time, and it uses a lot of similar techniques to Jaws, but there's one thing in Jurassic Park you don't see in Jaws. Yes, a T-Rex, but also a tropical rainstorm. We're going to show you how we do that. Now, typically you wouldn't hear thunder on set, but all the effects are going to be live so you can record it. We got thunder, we got lightning, and now I'm turning on the rain. Ta-da! And just like that, you got a rainy day. Now, you're going to have to take my word for it that there is water falling. It's very difficult to see at night, but that's exactly what it's going to look like if it was naturally raining as well. You need a lot of water and a lot of light. To see how much water we're putting out, peer back over by car 4. We have some 3 kind of bright lights, and you can see how much water we're putting out there. And it's still not enough, so I'm going to up the water a bit until we can see it. Keep on up. That should be enough. Why is it not? All right, I'm going to max it out, Dizzy, to see what we can do. What happened? Did I break it? Yeah. Oh, I really broke it. That is a lot of water. Hold your breath. Don't worry, all not a flood. Got 10,000 gallons of water barely from giant tanks, just like this scene in the movie Big Fat Liar with Paul Giamatti, Amanda Bynes, and Frank Medina.
You can't run a walk, kid! Yeah, we'll see about that.
You can also see our music. You can also see our flood. Excuse me, in a few music videos, things like "Bailamos" by Enrique Iglesias and "Judas" by Lady Gaga. This part of old Mexico was seen as Mexico in a Paramount picture called Nacho Libre, starring Jack Black. This is also the pirate city of Tortuga, and this inspires the Caribbean Curse of the Black Pearl. So a lot of our favorite movies can use the same set because we're not paying attention, right? We can use the same set over and over again. In fact, this era, the other side of 6 Points that we're in, these Western sets have been seen in thousands of movies. Most of them, though, were silent Westerns, because back in the silent film era, you could make movies right next to each other. And 6 Points is 6 separate streets, all built so you cannot see one street from the other one. So you could make 6, 7 movies out here all at the same time. Yes, I did the thing. All right, I did that for you. I don't want to do it, but I do it for you. But they would make hundreds of movies out here every single year. And that's how we got our start. Now, we still use these. Hacks was here last week making an episode for their 5th season. Also, there's been 2 movies in the last 8 years that use this as a movie studio. One's an A24 movie called Maxine with Mia Goth. It's part of the X-movie trilogy that she did. And also, Quentin Tarantino did a Sony picture out here called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, that movie takes place in Hollywood in 1969, and there's about 45 minutes of the movie where Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Rick Dalton, is starring in a Western, and that was all done here in 6 Points. Both of the movies make this look extremely cool. Both are extremely rated R, so please keep that in mind. But there was also a Disney movie made here called Saving Mr. Banks, so Tom Hanks and Colin Farrell. It's a making of the Mary Poppins movie where Tom Hanks plays Walt Disney. Colin Farrell is playing the author of Mary Poppins' father. And in the turn-of-century Australia, she's growing up in a town. Her father is fired from the bank. That bank was out here as well. Even Steven Spielberg made a movie out here. It's called The Color Purple. Dress shop that opens up at the end of the film is right here in 6 Points. Now, y'all, we are roughly halfway done with our tour. We're doing a kind of a weird roundabout route today, so it's hard to tell. But just as a reminder, if you need my assistance, please remember the red emergency cord is hanging above your head. Give that thing a pull, we'll be back to help you. Otherwise, remain seated with your arms and legs inside the vehicle. Now, Steven Spielberg has had an absolutely amazing and rich history with Universal Studios. He did, some of our more widely known movies over the decades, starting with Jaws and then E.T., Jurassic Park, Schindler's List at the same time as Jurassic Park, and that's just 20 years of his career there. But prior to that, he was working on stuff like commercials, made-for-TV movies, nighttime television right here at Universal Studios. And that's the work that he did that got him the directorial job for Jaws. He was not the original director, by the way. I won't say who it was, but he was fired by the executives because they kept on calling the shark a whale in pre-production. But we won't go there. Steven Spielberg was brought in, and he was the youngest person on set, other than the children actors. But he ended up making it work out. He became a worldwide known director. The editor of the film, Verna Fields, won an Academy Award for her work and became vice president of production. John Williams, the composer of the movie, won an Academy Award and became John Williams, and we know and love him to this day. And, like I said, Steven Spielberg became Steven Spielberg. But he's just one of multiple directors that have an amazing history. And please understand, I'm talking about a lot of directors and actors here. There's so many more people that it actually takes to make a movie or a television show. Hundreds of people, sometimes thousands of people. And you could be one of them, and I hope you are one day, and you make your way back here. Now, let's say you're interested in, costuming. Well, we have a costuming department a little bit up ahead, just past the tram that's ahead of us. It is named after Edith Head, a famed costume designer who worked with Alfred Hitchcock for a number of years. She's also one of the most Academy Award nominated women of any part of the movie industry of all, and that's where our costuming is. But just on the other side of the Edith Head building, we have even more soundstages. Now, we are massive, by the way. We are a 400-acre movie studio that is twice the size of Warner Brothers across the street, and they're the second biggest studio in town. The reason why we're so big is actually because of the Great Depression. Believe it or not, almost 100 years ago, there was an influx of movie studios failing, just like any other business in the time. But we didn't fail because of the monster movies. And I mean the classics, Dracula, Frankenstein, The Wolfman, and The Invisible Man, which also filmed just on the other side of the tram in front of us. Now, we're unable to drive into the set there called Little Europe because the same movie that is in the Metropolitan sets is also out here. But these sets date back 100 plus years ago. There was a silent movie made here called The Hunchback of Notre Dame with Lon Chaney Sr. They built a giant Notre Dame cathedral. They did the crypts over the river, which is like 100 yards to our left. And then a few years after reusing those sets over and over again, we made a movie here called All Quiet on the Western Front. It's a cultural masterpiece of a movie. It's about World War I, told from the perspective of a German soldier. It was saw by people all around the world, and we ended up winning our first Academy Award for Best Picture. It was in the third Academy Awards, by the way, so we've been in a long time. And since everyone had saw our Best Picture, they looked at the next thing that we did, which was the monster movies. And we started with Dracula, because Dracula was free, he was public domain, and we have Bela Lugosi on contract. He was perfect for the role, and people recognized him all around the world. They put him in the Cape, they brought him out to Little Europe, and he did amazing. He did so well, in fact, that Universal approached him for the next role of Frankenstein. Now, when I say Frankenstein, I mean the monster, not Dr. Frankenstein. But Bela Lugosi kind of disagreed. He said, I don't think I'm the right man for this role. People recognize my face in the Dracula poster because it's my face. You're not going to have my face on the Frankenstein poster. You're going to see the monster and all the makeup involved in that. Not only that, my romantic style of acting fits very well with Dracula, who's a very eloquent human being. The monster grunts the entire film. That's not going to make sense. I think you should find somebody else. So Universal did. They found somebody who had a much more physical style of acting, whose makeup or face fit the makeup a little bit better than Bela Lugosi. And he hadn't really had a big role at the time, but he'd still had a pretty extensive movie career. His name is Boris Karloff. And not only did he become an absolutely amazing and world-renowned actor, the makeup became an icon. The makeup was done by Jack Pierce. Jack Pierce is the gentleman there in the circle rim glasses. When I say Frankenstein, we're all picturing the same guy, right? That's because of Jack Pierce. He came up with the idea of what the monster looked like. Prior to this movie, it was just a character in a book. People would read a description, they'd build the character in their own mind, and they have their own idea. But after this movie came out, people knew who Frankenstein was, and we still recognize it to this day. Not only that, it was terrifying. People were fainting in the theaters. And the director of the movie wanted that to be people's actual reaction, so they hid Boris Karloff from all the other actors. And so the first time they saw Boris Karloff in costume, in makeup, was when they started rolling the cameras. And they did that by having him walk around with a sack over his face. You ask me, that's terrifying. Right? That's more scary than Frankenstein. But we're used to the character by now. And the movie did great. The character became iconic, and Boris Karloff just went by Karloff the rest of his career. He was the Madonna of his day. Now, Bela Lugosi, he and Boris Karloff got along really great. They were fast friends. And Bela Lugosi was actually in the early Frankenstein movies. If you watch them, he plays Dr. Frankenstein's assistant of Igor. Now, when Bela Lugosi was talking with Boris Karloff, he found out that Boris Karloff wanted to retire. He said, my character's had his arc, he had an amazing story, I think it's time to step down. Well, he knew that no one else would be able to fill his shoes, but maybe he could. So they created a new monster with Igor's brother. So Igor got killed off, and a new monster was made, and that's Bela Lugosi's Frankenstein. So he got to play the character in the end as well. That also shows you a lot of the same characters would appear in the movies, right? There was the original cinematic universe, right? Boris Karloff was also the original Mummy in the Mummy movies that we had way back in the 1930s. You see the Wolfman there, played by Lon Chaney Jr. His father played the original Phantom of the Opera and the Hunchback of Notre Dame. So it was a good way for everyone to be involved in the productions, and a good way for Universal Studios to weather that storm. And we still have the sets that are here. Now, a lot of the sets that we've seen today are built for... I'm going to hang out the window again. Hi. How's it going? A lot of the sets that we have here are built for one specific movie, and then we just keep on building and building and building and adding and adding and adding, right? We allow... I saw you guys doing that in the line. What are you doing? I'm going to do it back at you. I hope it's not vulgar. What I just did was not like a horrible thing. Every so often, though, a television show or movie needs something and they build it, and rather than tear it down, we just keep it because it's cool. A great example of that is actually what's inside of this soundstage here. This is the only permanent set inside of the soundstage because it was built specifically for our tram. So please remain seated, hold on to your belongings. This is a subway station set. This was built for a movie back in around 1990 that did a stunt where an actor jumped from a train platform and grabbed on top of a subway train. Now, you could do that with a real subway station, but it's going to be expensive. You have to rent out the entire line for however long it's going to take you, right? It was actually less expensive and easier for them to build this entire set and use an old tram wrapped up in like a subway train. And it's also a great way to show that you do it practically. Practically means physically in front of the camera with no computers. Then we're going to tear it down, but we asked if we could keep it. And we do rent it out ever so often. It's not widely used like our other sets. You saw this in Bones with Emily Deschanel and David Boreanaz. My favorite use of this is Beverly Hills Cop 3 with Eddie Murphy. They actually use this. Whoa! All right, hold on. Please remain seated, arms and legs to the vehicle. That could be a tremor, could also be an earthquake. That is an earthquake. Okay. We're only last a few seconds. Please remember, earthquake. Oh. Nice job, everyone. You survived earthquake, the big one. Now that is a practical effect. It's also a giant machine. You're going to see the building to reassemble itself, right? A lot of filmmakers want to do that because they want to film things the same way but another time. Take 2, take 3, take 185. And that's exactly the way that you do that. A big mechanical effect. Now, Steven Spielberg had his issues with his mechanical effect with the shark and Jaws, but he figured it out enough to get the movie made and, have an amazing release. And he also helped us build our own, like I mentioned earlier. Here he is to tell you a little bit more about that.
The Jaws ride was almost the inevitable result of the size of the box office when Jaws first opened in June of 1975. And that was really the first time I ever got involved in the creation of a ride. It was a great honor to be invited into a creative circle of tremendous designers at Universal that were trying to figure out how to replicate what the movie had done to audiences in a real way by building a physical shark that would come out of the water and terrify tourists as they were sitting in the traffic. And the most amazing thing about the Jaws ride is it is exactly as it was from the time it was first placed on Universal Lot. There have been tweaks, of course, over the years, but it is essentially what the designers and myself all envisioned and created. I'm done bashing the shark. Thank you, Jaws, for everything you've done for me. But I will say, consistently, the shark did work much better on the tour than it did in the Atlantic Ocean in 1970.
And that was half the issue. Filming in the real ocean is already difficult and dangerous, and he put a mechanical shark in it, and it just kept on sinking day after day after day. Now, most movies will film in real locations like that. We call it on location whenever you're outside the studio. And that's mainly because movies use locations at least a little bit less than television shows. A movie's a 2-hour-long story, and each location is seen for a few seconds, which is about a few days of filming. A television show is using the same locations every episode. That's hundreds and hundreds of hours every year that you need that house. So if we're filming a movie about your life, we'll film that in your neighborhood. A television show about your life would use the houses on our left called Colonial Street, pretend it's your neighborhood. Now, Colonial Street was the burbs of the burbs with Tom Hanks and Carrie Fisher back in 1989. It was also used as the home to Casper and Casper, Skeeter Ricci. It was Nellyville with Nellie and Kelly Rowland and Kalimba. A lot of people, though, recognize it as Wisteria Lane on ABC's Desperate Housewives. Their parents may recognize the neighborhood of the Munsters, the Cleavers, the Leave It to Beaver. Practically every commercial that takes place in a normal neighborhood is on our Colonial Street. It's also where Ted and Johnny live in our Peacock show, Ted. Take a look.
Let the festivities begin.
How many we got?
Well, let's see. We got 20 curtains.
Fantastic.
Do you think we're getting too old for this?
Come on, Johnny, we're doing a public service here. If a kid leaves the house in a less than stellar Halloween costume, he's got to get the bad news before he makes a fool of himself all over town. We're Samaritans.
Y'all, I know that's a teddy bear. That show is not for children. You'd find that out. Very quickly. When I was a kid, though, Jurassic Park was my favorite thing ever. I had a Jurassic Park Jeep toy that would press all around the carpet and the floor, just leaving little tread marks. It's the same exact Jeep that you see at the top of the hill here to the left-hand side. These are what we call picture cars. Picture cars are all the vehicles you see in a movie or a television show. And we got some pretty famous ones here on the left. Now, to grab your photos, just want to let you all know we got about 10 to 15 minutes left for our tour. So once again, a reminder, if you need my assistance, remember the red emergency cord hanging above your head. Give it a pull. Be back to help you. Gotta talk about Fast and Furious, right? Hundreds of picture cards from the franchise, billions of dollars at the box office, and 11 movies so far. And I say so far because I know something you know, though. All right, here's the secret I'm not supposed to tell you. Ready? I can confirm we are making 300 more Fast and Furious movies. I have no idea how many we're making. We'll make a few. I also need to make sure you say in the vehicle because there was a lady named Marion Crane reported missing over here. She was last seen checking in at the Bates Motel. Yeah, welcome to the iconic Bates Motel and Psycho House up there from Alfred Hitchcock's hit thriller, Psycho. Now, you might have noticed we have a lot of junk in front of the motel and behind it there. That's leftover stuff from Halloween. We just finished it not too long ago. Got to get it cleaned up, not only for the holidays, but because Norman comes home for Thanksgiving. He's going to be very mad at the mess we left. Now, Norman Bates lives up here at this house with his mom. This house has been on the studio lot since 1959. Moved up here around the mid-'80s or so, and it's looking as creepy as ever. Now, that Psycho House is all considered to be one of the most iconic movie sets ever constructed, recognized just by its silhouette, but in its backyard is one of the largest movie sets ever constructed. This is the massive 747 crash site from Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds. It's a Paramount picture he did here, starring Tom Cruise, Dakota Fanning, and Justin Chatwin. That also features that real 747, which was completely destroyed, not by a crash, but by the crew. This plane in real life flew perfectly its entire life, but all aircraft must be retired at a certain point. It was sent to an aircraft graveyard to be torn up and sold for metal scrap. However, Steven Spielberg and the production designer Rick Carter knew they wanted this set to be practical, again, physically in front of the camera. So they went to that aircraft graveyard before it was chopped up and bought it in near perfect condition. Mind you, it could never fly again. Also consider the fact that the new 747s right off the assembly line are roughly $400 million and makes this plane a steal. They bought it for $60,000. That is it. The issue was they couldn't fly it here. They had to chop it up and ship it here for about $260,000. They always get you on shipping. But once they got it here, that is when the damage was done. They recreated a real neighborhood of the town of New Jersey on the right, destroyed those, spent millions of dollars to construct this set, and you see in the movie less than 5 minutes. That is it. A lot of it you can see next, along with Steven Spielberg and Rick Carter, talk about the concept.
The airplane crash site set is a perfect example of a set that is all designed around a vision that Steven had. When we first began to sit down to talk about War of the Worlds, I thought, what if the 747 goes down right in a big neighborhood? Because it's just something you don't see.
You're doing good. You're doing good. That's me. That's it now. As long as you close your eyes, okay? Down close.
Bobby, get in.
I gotta watch that next movie.
Get in. Now, like I said, outside of what we just watched, this set is only seen in the movie for about 3 more minutes. That is it. That is a lot of work for a small part of the film. But Steven Spielberg knows it's not how long we see something that matters. It's what we see and what it does in our mind. Think of the shark in Jaws. You see a fin cutting beneath the wave, you're going to think about the shark the rest of your life, let alone the rest of the movie. Or the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. You hear it coming before you see it. It's setting up the tone and suspense before the beast ever shows up. He's using our own minds for and against us to build the tension, build the suspense, and build the story. And Jordan Peele, a newer director here at Universal, does something very similar in all 3 of his movies. Here he is to tell us about the set from his 3rd movie, Nope.
Movie magic only happens when a team of collaborators, often in the hundreds, work together to take an impossible notion and bring it to life. This is Jupiter's Planet, a nostalgic, small-time Southern California amusement park owned by former child star Ricky G. Over there, look into the Winking Well and have your picture taken just like the kids in that old 90s movie Kid Show. That's what this whole place is loosely based on. Remember that one? No? Why? A little further down, you can see the brand new Star Lasso experience. Showcase an unbelievable new live show. Not looking so live anymore. Anyway, behind this Hollywood fantasy, gold rush frontiers now. Eyes of Caesar see. It is smack dab in the center of Oxford. What's a bad miracle? You're going to find out.
What in the world is going on?
Welcome to the world.
Yo, I think we're losing power. Just remain seated. Yeah, nope. You're not there. If you haven't seen Nope, you gotta watch it. Watch all three of Jordan Peele's movies, though. He's done Get Out, Us, and Nope so far at Universal. Those are the ones that he's written, directed, and produced himself. I'm excited for him to direct another movie out here, not only because I've enjoyed them. Every movie that he has done is used more and more in the studio. So I'm hoping his fourth movie uses like every set possible, including this giant wall up here on the right-hand side. It's kind of hard to see in the nighttime, but if you look to your right, it looks like just a vacant parking lot, but it's actually a giant basin with a wall behind it that's bright blue. We use this for visual effects, and the basin could be filled with water, so you can actually do water scenes out here with any backdrop you need it to be. And some pretty big movies have filmed out here. Top Gun Maverick was out here with Tom Cruise, Inception and Dunkirk. Christopher Nolan did those for Warner Brothers out here, and hopefully Jordan Peele one day. And hopefully you too, right? Because a lot of people that make movies here started on a tour. Jordan Peele was here all the time as a kid. And Steven Spielberg's first experience with Universal was on a tour.
My entire career began with my relationship with Universal Studios just as a high school kid on a tour bus. Remember, in those days, there weren't trams, there were buses called the Gray Line Tour Bus. And I was so excited and thrilled to be on the lot. It was my first time ever on a movie studio lot. And during a bathroom break, I hid in the bathroom, and when everybody left to get back on the bus, I waited another 15 minutes until I'm sure the bus left, and then I had the entire lot to myself that day. And in those days, movie lots were so crowded because all movies were made on film lots. Today they're made all over the world, on locations, but most of it was focused in those days, in the 60s, on the film lots. So everybody noticed me when I was going around from soundstage to soundstage, and I really felt, in my own young way, I owned the lot and had the most amazing day of my life.
And I would say it was a pretty amazing career that followed that day. So I hope the same thing happens for you. And no, don't sneak off the tour. That was in the 60s. But I hope you come back one day inspired by your tour today to make a movie or a television show. But whatever brings you back, make a movie, watch a movie, writing a movie. We hope you have a great rest of your night tonight, and hope to see you again very soon. But y'all, that is going to conclude our movie studio tour this evening. We're going to get y'all back to the theme park at this point. Thank you all so much for coming out to the tour. Especially thanks to our annual pass holders on board. It's always nice seeing familiar faces on the train. If you want to become an annual pass holder and be able to join us throughout the year, you just take your ticket to the Universal box office. It's that big tall tower next to Starbucks in the center of the park. They show you how you can extend your ticket into an annual pass and then come back throughout the year. I also encourage you to download the Universal Studios Hollywood app if you haven't already. It helps out a lot. It'll confirm that we're open until 8 p.m. Gives you showtimes at Waterworld, late times at Horizon attractions around there, home food ordering, a whole lot more. If you have any questions, though, I'll be standing over by the directory board the wait times once we exit the tram. Whether you've got a question about the theme park, the movie studio, or just want to say hello, come on over. Once again, my name is Tim. Just look for the goofy-looking guy with the mustache waving at you. That'll be me. Also, if you're interested to watch any Universal movie, whether I talked about it or not, website on your screen there, uphe.com, is a great resource to go to. Type in what you're looking for. Let me show you where it's available. Once it comes to a full complete stop, one of our studio tour ambassadors will be over to open up the door for us. Until then, just remain seated. Once that door is open, please watch your step off the tram. Make sure you have all your belongings with you. Toss your 3D glasses and only 3D glasses in those blue and silver bins to the left, and have a tram-tastic day. I'll be at the doozy with myself. That's a wrap, y'all.